got a question for you, right? Obviously, it's a hypothetical question because it's not happening and we don't know the answer. But if Bad Boys 4 and Beverly Hills Cop 4 opened on the same day, which one do you think would be the bigger money spinner?
Bad Boys.
Do you reckon?
The only reason why, for a couple of reasons. One, there's been a Bad Boys film in the last 5 years, so it's more relevant in people's minds. I know the gap between Bad Boys 2 and Bad Boys 3, there's a big gap, but it's more relevant in people's minds, Bad Boys. Two, I personally think that even despite what he did at the Oscars, I still think that Will Smith is more of a bankable actor than Eddie Murphy.
Mm.
Because if you look at Will Smith's back catalogue and the things that he's actually been in, I think more people would actually go to see a Will Smith film over an Eddie Murphy movie. Because can you think of an Eddie Murphy film that might have cracked more than 200 million at the box office?
Recently, no.
Apart from Shrek.
Yeah. If we take voiceover things out of the equation, no. It feels to me, and I know Eddie Murphy's done stuff like Dolomite and whatnot, but it feels to me like it's been a while since we've had a cinematic Eddie Murphy blockbuster type thing. Whereas, like you say, with Will Smith, the last one was probably Bad Boys 3.
And obviously we know him from things like Independence Day and Hancock and stuff like that, and I Am Legend. And even when his movies haven't as performed as well as people might think at the box office, if you see a poster with Will Smith's face on it, if you see a poster with Eddie Murphy's face on it, I think more people would actually be going towards the Will Smith side. However, in this case here, I think more people will actually see the new Beverly Hills Cop because it's straight to Netflix.
Yeah.
Rather than Bad Boys, which is cinemas, and we know what's happening with cinemas as of late. Cinemas over the last couple of years, they started to wane quite a bit to the point where Cineworld is still actually looking for buyers.
Really?
And they think that they've got a buyer for Cineworld, so the Cineworld chain potentially could be bought. And so, yeah, I know the fact a new cinema has opened up in my town centre, but I still think people go to the cinema a lot less these days compared to watching things on streaming platforms, just because of it's easier to actually get something on a streaming platform. You don't have to spend the stupid amounts of money that some cinemas charge for concessions like popcorn, hot dogs and soft drinks, etc., when you can pretty much spend the cost of what it would be for 2 cinema tickets, going around to your local shops and buying 2-litre bottle of pop, a couple of bags of popcorn, some snacks and stuff. That's the cost of 2 cinema tickets, pretty much.
You can get a full-on takeaway delivered to your house for that price, couldn't you?
Yeah, because if you look at a family of 4, typical family of 4, 2 adults, 2 children, if they're going to the cinema, that trip is probably going to cost north of 60, 70 pounds. Whereas if you're having a night in with Netflix or whatever, you could watch multiple films. You could, as you said, get a takeaway, get snacks, and probably still have change from all of that. And the fact that also films seem to be going on streaming platforms a hell of a lot more quicker.
Stupidly. Yeah.
The Fall Guys is a prime example of that.
So it's Furiosa. That's scheduled to drop onto video on demand on the 26th of June, the last I heard. It's like, that's just insane.
Fall Guys, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks after it was in cinemas, it went, you could rent it. Yes, I know the cost of renting the price of renting a film these days is stupidly high. Like films cost anywhere between £12 to £20 to rent. But obviously, if you look back at when the Blockbuster days and the global video days and the local chain, the gap between cinema releases and home releases was a good year, 2 years.
Yeah.
Now, because it's so short, they think that they can still charge the 15, 16, £20 to rent a film because it's still in a way cheaper to rent that film and buy your concessions than it is to go to the cinema.
It's also quicker. You know, if you rent a film, you press play, you're not having half an hour worth of adverts, trailers you've already seen online anyway. You're generally not having to tolerate idiots on their phones. Yeah. People talking loudly, just generally being dicks. The etiquette in cinemas is... I don't know if the etiquette in cinemas is worse than it used to be, because I remember
it has.
Has it got worse?
I personally think it has, because you hit the nail on the head with mobile phones. I think with the advent of technology and the more technology is getting a lot more smarter, with the more things of like TikTok and X and Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and every other social network platform. 10 years ago, those social network platforms weren't as big. Like Twitter or X now it was just sort of like a meeting hub. But if you look at compared to now, or Facebook even, MySpace, I know that doesn't exist anymore, but MySpace, yeah, you still had kids going on there, but there was a place where you could just take yourself away from it. And cinemas were that because you obviously didn't have devices. iPhones were just starting to become relevant. They did have 3G. You were able to surf the internet, but you didn't use it as much for social elements as you do now. And so the internet wasn't as big, or the availability of things like 3G, 4G weren't as big 10 years ago, 15 years ago as it is now. And so the distraction will always be there because you'll have your phone in your pocket and then you'll be thinking, well, I've just sent a message to a friend. I wonder if there's a reply. I wonder what other people said.
Find out when your film that you've just paid however much for has finished, then check your message.
People don't think like that though.
No, they don't. And it's like I don't. Even when I'm watching films at home, I don't sit there on my phone. I'll sometimes do it if I've seen it. If I'm putting Jaws on again or something, it's like I've seen this film a million times. It's just comfort viewing for me. I'll do that. But if I'm watching a film I've never seen before, I don't even have my phone next to me. Annette does. She's a bugger for that. She's like, oh, what's that person been in? I need to have a look now to see what person. And I'm like, oh, it grates me. It's just like, I sometimes leave the phone. It's always on silent anyway. But I will leave it in another room. It's like, I don't care. I'm watching a film. I still enjoy films, but some people have this self-importance where they're like, oh, somebody might have sent me a very important tweet about Doctor Who or whatever. And they just have to, I don't know.
The thing is, though, we're old curmudgeon buggers.
Yeah.
Remember, we're so used to our old manners and the way we were brought up as kids when we went to the cinema as a treat, or when we used to go to the cinema when we're adults on our own accord, or watching a film on TV or something like that. Despite the fact that being a techie nerd, absolutely loving technology, we're still sort of like attuned to the fact that that's how we see films. We sit down, watch the film, so we'll concentrate on it. Yeah. Whereas obviously the way society has grown up now, because they're growing up in a world of technology where anything can be accessed at the simple screen that you have in the palm of your hand, the distraction will always be there. And again, it sounds like I'm a moaning old fart, but remember, I'm huge into technology. I absolutely love the technology side of things. It's just the way you see society as of late when it comes to films. And that's a perfect example as to why streaming platforms, as big as they are, because they know that the accessibility of those ways of being able to find a film is a lot more easier now than it would be if it is that you have to wait for a specific time for a film to start. You have to travel down to a place where this film will actually be, sit through 20 minutes of adverts, sit through 20 minutes of trailers to actually see the film itself. Whereas at home, you could just pull out a tablet and press the Netflix icon, and voila, there's your whole movie world for you to explore.
I think that's the thing, is it's like if I decided this afternoon after this podcast I'm going to go to the cinema to watch Bad Boys 4, I don't know at this moment in time what time it starts, so I need to look that up, and then I go, right, what bus do I need to catch to get there in time for that, and buy the ticket and queue up. It's probably going to be half an hour worth of it is a hassle compared to if it was on video on demand. I would go, well, we're finishing this at like 2:30 or whatever time, I'll put the film on at 3. It's fine. It's so much easier. The cost thing, I get it. It is expensive to rent a film, but once you put in bus fares and time and cinema ticket, especially if there's more than one of you going, then it does become. So I kind of get why a lot of people don't go. You're never going to get the viewing experience at home, whether you've got a projector or a soundbar or whatever, that you are in a cinema. But I kind of get why they're dwindling. But what do you think it's fixable with cinemas? I mean, there's a lot of factors. Stop putting women in films, Stu, because people don't like that. People get really mad when there's women in films. It's outrageous. This diversity's out of control. They need slapping to trolls like that. But
is it fixable? If I'm being completely honest, to not sound downright, I don't think it is. No matter what cinemas have tried, I don't think it's going to be enough to actually reverse the course of how streaming have actually took over the movie world. The only reason why I say that for a couple of reasons, and the main reason is because these big streaming platforms are investing in their own films, and it's not the fact that they're spending small changes or getting small directors or small actors to actually be in those films. The prime example is Beverly Hills Cop. Who would have thought that the new Beverly Hills Cop would be funded by Netflix directly on Netflix?
It's crazy.
Or
Yep.
Ministry of Ungentle Meat Warfare, for example. Yes, it got a theatrical release in America, the latest Guy Ritchie film, but it's going to be straight to Amazon Prime over here because it's an Amazon film. It's MGM, but
Yep.
it's an Amazon film, and so because these big, huge, massive streaming platforms are investing in their own movies with their own directors and actors, and there are big ones. Cinema does not have that coup anymore. They can't go, oh, the latest Eddie Murphy film is on the big screen. Well, it's not. It's on the small screen, the latest Eddie Murphy film. They could look at the area where I know some cinemas do the unlimited pass, which is a big, huge, massive help. And that was a smart move when cinema chains introduced the cinema pass. So Cineworld have it, Odeon has it, my new cinema in my town centre has it, Omniplex. And it's not expensive. It's only $12.99 for a month, which
So
is
here's a question on the unlimited passes. So from a customer point of view, I get it. They're worth it. They're worth, you'd save a fortune. If you go to the movies as much as you did or you do, you're going to save a bunch of money. But is there a certain element that goes, well, I'm only paying 15 quid a month or 12 quid a month, so I'm just going to go watch pretty much anything, and I'm just going to be a bit of a dick in the screening because it's not like I've paid for the cinema ticket. Is there an element of that, or do you think people would be dicks if they just paid for a cinema ticket individually anyway?
no, because the way Omniplex Cinema does it for their unlimited pass is different to any other company. And I think they've hit the nail completely on the head the way they do it. So the way they do it, it is $11.99 a month, unlimited. But you can only see that film once in that month. So, for example, with Bad Boys, if you go to see Bad Boys, see it today at 4 o'clock, and you want to see it again during this month, you have to pay for it. But if you want to go and see it again in July and it's still on the cinema, you get it for free. Because once you see that film once that month, that's it. You can't see it again until the next month. So it can't be where you go, oh, I've got to see Bad Boys. I'm going in 2 weeks' time to see it again. And you thought, I've already seen it. I'll be an absolute dick. Well, you're going to pay for it. So that's you losing out on money to actually see a film that you've seen before. And I think that's a really interesting way of actually doing it. I know a lot of people might look on that and go, well, that's not fair. But you think, well, it is fair. You've seen the film once. How many times are you potentially going to see the same film twice in a month? Unless you absolutely love the film. And if you have, then you're going to have to pay the price to actually see it again. So I think that's the way they should do it. It shouldn't be where you pay 12, 15, £20 a month and you can see that same film 4 times in that month or whatever. And then you're just going to lose interest in it and you could potentially be an absolute dick.
Yeah.
So only tell them you can only see that film once and then you have to pay for it again if you want to see it in that month again. And I think that's just a genius way of doing it.
I mean, odds are you're probably only going to see it once anyway because it'll be on VOD by the time the next month rolls around, won't it, with the state of everything that's going on now. But
Definitely.
I have a crazy theory that I've just plucked out of my nose. That's the main studios. They'd be happy if cinemas went. I'm starting to lean towards that, and I go back to the early 2000s when the video stores there used to be, like you said, a lengthy release window. So a film would come out at the cinema on the 1st of January and it would eventually come out on VHS like August or September or October or something like that. And then they got shortened. It was Gladiator, it was the first one, which was a really short window. And then the studios, Warner's being the prime example, started doing the day and date stuff with it is coming out on rental VHS, rental DVD, but also people can go into Woolworths and W.H. Smith's and buy it for less than so they were trying to take out the video stores to a certain depth. with cinemas, obviously cinemas get a certain amount of revenue from a ticket sale, but it's not a lot.
10%.
10%, which is ridiculous. So anybody's like, why are hot dogs so expensive? That's why, because 10% is crazy. So the studio gets the other big chunk. That is a lot of 10% that they could eliminate, I think, were cinemas not around. And the fact that these cinemas have got streaming platforms is a new form of distribution for the films. If there were no cinemas, we would pay 20, I keep saying dollars for some reason. We would pay £20 to rent the film at home because we would have no other way. So I don't think the studios like cinemas. I think they'd be quite happy if they did one. And things like the Fall Guy and the Furiosa announcements, that's not helping cinema chains at all, because it is reconditioning, a bit like they did with Pixar or whatever, where they condition people to think, I'll wait for streaming because it won't be long. It's
a weird one, because studios still make the biggest chunk of their movie money back from cinema releases. They still do make it.
Not as much now.
It's not as much, but it's still the biggest chunk. If you still look at the percentage of where they're actually earning the money back from a film itself, it's still in cinemas, because for them, it's a good sort of like measuring stick for them to garner the reaction to the film, a cinema release. Because if they see that the film itself has not done as well at the box office monetary-wise, then that's when they do have the get out of jail free card of being able to throw it on VOD or streaming platforms or onto physical media a lot more quicker, rather than say about 5-10 years ago, where they didn't have the option of being able to do that. They had to wait for that window to win, because there was obviously rules in place that a film had to be shown in the cinema for a certain amount of time. The cinema set these rules, where in America, for example, the film has to have a good 4-6 week window in cinemas, and then that's when you can look at releasing it on streaming platforms. And if you look at the sort of like the distance, studios never used to use that 4-6 week difference. They used to let it in the cinemas for that amount of time and then release it 6 months later. But they've shortened the window as much as they possibly can to get it close to that 4-6 week target. But it's still a 4-6 week target. So it might think that the Fall Guys has been out for 2 weeks and then out on VOD or whatever, but the actual reality of the time frame is 4 weeks, because they've shortened that gap as much as they possibly can. So it has to have a window of release in cinemas. So that's how cinemas can actually use that to their benefit. But they're not using that to their benefit, though, because they're not selling tickets. They're not bringing people in to actually see it, because of the studios shortening that target as well. But still, the studios will actually use the box office releases of their good measuring stick and find out how well a film is actually going to do. Because if a Furiosa, for example, did make 200 million in its opening weekend, they're going to just go, well, brilliant, this is fantastic. Well, we're not going to actually release it on VOD or whatever until 2 months down the line, because we know if it's going to make 200 million in its first weekend, it's still not going to make as much in their coming weekends, but it's still going to make enough to get it close to 400 million by the end of its run, 500 million by the end of its run. So they don't release it on that.
I mean, Top Gun Maverick was a good example, wasn't it? Where it came out, it did better than pretty much everybody thought it was going to do. And then Paramount kept going, yeah, well, we don't know when we're going to release it on VOD, but soon, but we don't know when, And they did squeeze every bit of box office money out of that. And that's the correct way to do it, I think.
Illumination did it, and Nintendo with the Super Mario Brothers movie last year, because there was only 2 films last year that cracked the billion mark. And one of them was the Super Mario Brothers movie. And obviously, kids will have gone to see it at the cinema, and they're wondering when it's going to be released on video on demand or streaming platforms, etc. The initial release from cinema releases to that area there was a lot bigger than it has been for something like a Fall Guys. Yeah. So the studios are thinking, they have to think on their feet now, because they used Fall Guys as the example, and the fact that it was released quite close to the cinematic release of it. So they do have the option to it, but I don't think films would do as well if they were only streaming platform ones. Because I know people, for example, Atlas, the new Jennifer Lopez film, I know they're sort of like championing a bit the viewing figures of how many people actually watched it, and it's the first weekend that it was on. But did they talk about the viewing figures after that point?
Yeah.
Not really.
And the thing is, with a Netflix or an Amazon or an Apple or whatever, the viewing figures can be as big as possible. That doesn't generate money, unless people are signing up to watch Atlas or whatever. But generally, people who watch things on streaming platforms, most of them have already got those streaming platforms, so they just watch the new film that's dropped on. So I would rather have box office money than viewing figures money. If every day of the week, I would rather have the clown that runs Netflix going, well, Barbie and Oppenheimer would have done just as well had they dropped onto Netflix. No, they wouldn't, because you've got near enough $2 billion there, probably over $2 billion from those two films. You would not have had $2 billion worth of new subscribers had Oppenheimer and Barbie dropped on. It wouldn't have helped cinemas. And I saw so many people wearing pink going to cinemas around the Barbie Oppenheimer time. It was great. Nobody would, the double bill wouldn't have been a thing. I'm going to watch two films on my own in the same afternoon. Yay, let me join in the social craziness of Barbenheimer. That wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. What I would find interesting though is out of all the figures that they drop for a film on a streaming platform when it's released for its opening weekend, how many people actually watch the film from beginning to end? Is there any way for them to actually see that? Like, you might have watched the film from beginning to end with potentially no interruptions or even just one pause in it. A lot of people might actually start a film and then you can go back to it and resume it, because the way the platforms do actually work, it's still sitting there even if you've got like the credits remaining of the film, still sort of like saying, well, finish me. But I wonder how many people actually watch it from beginning to end, whereas in the cinema, you paid your money to go and see the film. Very few people will actually walk out on that film halfway through the film or through the film itself, unless the film is actually absolutely atrocious. You wouldn't just go, oh, well, I'll go to see Bad Boys, or I'll go to see the Garfield movie, 20 minutes into the film going, well, I need the toilet. So you'll say to the projectionist, can you pause the film? I'm just going to go to the toilet and come back. So I wonder what it is like on these streaming platforms, if they can monitor how many people actually fully watch a film from beginning to end in that weekend itself, where cinemas you have to. Well, you don't have to watch the credits, but I'm one of these sad bastards who actually stays back and watch the credits.
Why do you stay and watch the credits in case it's a post-credit sequence, or do you stay because it's like, you know what, these guys and girls have worked really hard making this movie, I'm just going to let their name, and that's why I do it, and I've always done it.
I am the same as you. I do it that way. Yeah, obviously it's helpful with obviously your Marvel films, where they do have a couple of mid-credit sting and then an end-credit sequence. But I'm not too overly fussed by them because they don't have much impact anyway. No. It's sort of like a little snippet, and Venom is a prime example. Venom used the pre-credit sting, and then they didn't actually use it in the next Venom film, or into the next Venom film, The Last Dance, which always keeps on making me think of the Magic Mike film rather than a Venom film.
Crossover.
Exactly. So it's I watch it because I want to actually see if the people who actually made the film itself. It's just nice to give them the plaudits, because I might absolutely be rating, absolutely hate a film, but people did hard work on that movie. So you want to give them that little bit of a pat on the back saying, oh, well, your film is absolutely shockingly awful, but well done for creating something that I couldn't do.
Thanks for trying.
I definitely couldn't do what you were just doing. I just sit here looking at what you've actually created and criticize it and think how bad it is or how good it is. That's how I'm conditioned. So I definitely couldn't do that. Yet you couldn't do the job that I do. I don't know why the world would want to do the job that I do, but you couldn't do the job that I do. Then so I don't think they would actually sit and watch me all the way to the end of a phone call and then write all my notes up and all that kind of stuff. So
they would
I still need to give them credit.
They'd put one hand on your shoulder. I told Mick my job was similar to the one you do, and I told Mick Garris what I did for a living. He went, "Oh, good luck." I'm like, that sums it. And then a few months later, I quit because I'm like, you know what? If Mick Garris thinks I shouldn't do it, I'm out. But yeah, I think filmmakers would have a lot of sympathy for the job that you do.
Yeah.
So, what have you watched? So we need some good films. What have you watched that's been good? Let's get some recommendations out of the way.
It's a good film. So I wrote down a list of some of the films that I watched because over the month of May, I actually went a bit on a complete movie binge. And so the way I do it is, as you know me, it's very rare that I'll actually rewatch a film again these days.
Mm.
So every film that I stick on my letterbox, which I love that platform, or write down on my notes because I still do it that way. I still do the old-fashioned way and the letterbox way. Are all new films that I watch in the year. So nothing that I put on my letterbox is something I've watched previously. So that's why I might not have a lot of films on there, like 150, 200 movies. But you have to realize that that's per year, by the way. But you have to realize every single one of them is first time watches. They're brand new films that are actually released that year as well. So weren't released in 2023 or
Wow.
2010 or whatever. They are brand new films.
I'm not doing that. No, if I watch, for example, Stand By Me today and then I watch it tomorrow, it goes on my list twice. So
I don't do
you
that.
know, because for me,
Yeah.
I watched a film that I just happened to have seen before. So
Yeah, so that I don't do that. So every single film since I think it's pretty much since I started the Monday Movie Show back in 2010 that every single movie that I put down on the list is a new film that I've watched that year, and it has to be that year. It hasn't to be the previous year unless it was released in America in 2023 but came out over here in 24. That counts.
yeah.
But yeah, all the films I watch are new films, completely new films. So, but back to your question, I've seen quite a few, and I wrote a few of them down, but it's a bit of a mixed bag. I left a couple off, which I didn't want to mention because they were absolutely horrendously bad. Films that you'll have never heard of, films like Project Dorothy and Blight. You'll have never heard of those two films because Project Dorothy is just an AI gone bad kind of movie of two criminals stop open this what they think is an abandoned building, but it's a rogue AI that was left in this building, and very much similar to films like The Mangler. It was able to take over the vehicles in this case here inside the building, and it's just a bad film apart from one scene. And then another film called Light, which is your typical space crew crash land onto a planet and have to try and find a way off it. But the way it's shot is the characters can only see pretty much 5 feet in front of them, and that's it. And as a viewer, you can only see that distance as well. And you would think that actually sounds like an intriguing idea, but it really, really doesn't work. It needs to be under better hands. Films wise, I have seen that Ministry of Ungentleman Warfare. I'm not a huge Guy Ritchie fan. It's just it's a nothing film. It's one of those films where it has no consequences. So even though where it's actually set, you would expect consequences to happen during World War II with a group of ragtag rogues that are actually part of this group going up against evil, in the evil that was apparent in World War II. But there is no consequences. And you need consequences in those kind of films. And so there never feels to be the end goal is just nothing special. There's just no impact on it.
Okay.
So the acting is fine. There is a few decent, typical Guy Ritchie action scenes in it, which are choreographed well, shot well. Again, he's got a good eye behind the camera, very similar to Michael Bay or Zack Snyder or whatever. But his content with inside that is just very empty and vapid. It's just it'll be on Amazon very soon. I have seen The Fall Guy as well, but I didn't click very much with it neither.
I liked it. I thought it was fun. It's not.
I didn't feel it was fun though. That
Really?
was my problem. Yeah, I just didn't feel it was fun. The dynamic between Gosling and etc. just didn't click with me. It felt very fake and very forced. There are a few decent action set pieces in it, but that's a Matthew Vaughn film, etc. It's very similar in that style and just feels very empty again.
Okay.
And I've seen that Atlas as well on Netflix. And it just, if you know the video game Titanfall 2, it's Titanfall 2. That's it.
Right.
Jennifer Lopez does a damned hardest to actually see that film. She's not, in my opinion, she's not a brilliant actress, but she's one of those actresses that if she attaches herself to the role, she will play it as hard as she possibly can. And so I have to give her credit. The film is rubbish, but her perseverance to try and actually push it above what it actually is shown on screen, I have to give her credit for that. Because she honestly, she tries her damned hardest.
Yeah, I know you said it's rubbish, so it's not one you're going to watch again. But worth watching. Should I watch it, or should I just?
Yeah, it's a
fine.
stupidly brain dead movie. So if you're after something where you just don't want to concentrate that much, you just want something to pass the time away, you're after big crashy bangy wallop, a huge massive special effects kind of stuff. It definitely is that. There are some elements in the film, CGI wise, which is ropey beyond belief. But I think you'll probably agree with me at the end of it once you watch it and go, that film was terrible, but Jennifer Lopez, crikey, she did her hardest to make it as interesting or as enjoyable as possible.
Yeah.
And then I've seen Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, which I didn't.
What's your thoughts?
I didn't like it as much as Fury Road. I think Fury Road is a much better film because the coherence with Fury Road is a lot better. This film here feels like it's two films melted into one. Because the first half is Furiosa at the young age, and then the second half is the Anya Taylor-Joy stuff. And so I connected more when she was at the young character age rather than Anya Taylor-Joy. And that's not to say Anya Taylor-Joy didn't do a good job, because she did. She did a brilliant job. But I just felt like the film was better in its first half than its second half. It didn't bring as much to the table as what Fury Road did. Because Fury Road as a spectacle is a good old-fashioned 1980s old school blockbuster action film. It's the kind of film that you couldn't wait to see as a kid at the cinema, because you know you're going to be in for one hell of a ride. That's what Fury Road did. Furiosa didn't have that for me. Okay. So it's not as brilliant as a lot of people make it out to be, but it's not as bad as some people said it is. It's one of sort of like middly kind of areas.
Action set pieces compared to Fury Road. I know you mentioned the ropey CGI, but better. But is Furiosa a very action-packed movie?
No.
Really?
There are action-packed elements to it, but compare it to Fury Road, Furiosa doesn't have as much action as that, because the action set pieces that happen in Furiosa you've seen in Fury Road, they're sort of very carbon copies of some of the stuff. Like you've got the convoy scene where it's attacked in Furiosa, you've got exactly the same. You've got a convoy scene where they're attacked, and they have to sort of like get all the bad guys away from it, involving fires and speeders and all that kind of stuff. You've got exactly the same, so the carbon copies of each other. So I think if Fury Road didn't exist and Furiosa did, I think it would have had more of an impact. But because Fury Road did exist and the way it was actually handled in Fury Road, Furiosa, unfortunately, Fury Road is sort of like well above Furiosa, and it's at its detriment. But it's still worth to see.
And this isn't anything to do with the fact that, I mean, how much of the fact that Mad Max isn't in Furiosa annoyed you? Because you see all these clowns online going, it's because Mad Max wasn't in it. He was barely in Fury Road, to be fair. Fury Road was predominantly a Furiosa movie as well, but Charlize Theron instead of Anya Taylor-Joy. But did the film feel less entertaining because there was no Mad Max character in it, or are these just being internet clowns like they usually are?
Internet clowns as usual. Hence why it was called Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. You really don't need it. I think if given a chance, I think the film would have been called Furiosa. I think it was just called the Mad Max saga because they wanted to attach some kind of moniker to it to make people realize what it actually was part of. Because I know a lot of people might look at Furiosa and didn't pay much attention to the previous film, Fury Road, and thinking, oh, well, what's this movie? But when you add a Mad Max saga to it, they'll go, oh, it's part of the Mad Max franchise. So that was the only reason I think it was put the Mad Max moniker attached to it. But they're just usual, typical internet trolls where they talk out of their arsehole rather than out of their mouth.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep. So what else have you watched?
I'll leave the Garfield movie because it is as bad as a lot of people make it out to be. It's just, it shouldn't have existed. Garfield should be only on comic book strips and maybe children's TV cartoons, not on the big screen, because every single Garfield film has been bad, even the Bill Murray one. So no, thank you. Again, a bad film, unfortunately, is Strangers Chapter 1.
Oh, wow.
Rennie,
Okay.
yeah, Rennie Harlan I don't think he had a clue what the hell he was doing. Because the thing with Strangers Chapter 1 is it's a nothing film. Nothing happens in it. Very little happens in that movie. The tension that was in the original Strangers and Pre at Night, even though I didn't think Pre at Night was as good as the original Strangers. I think it's the Johannes Roberts problem because I don't think he's a good director at all. I know I shouldn't badmouth a British director, but I just don't think he is a good director at all. He hasn't made a decent enough film. I think his best film was 47 Meters Down. And that's saying something because even Welcome to Raccoon City, I saw it twice. It's fine. I know a lot of people hate it, but I thought like defend Resident Evil anyway. But I just don't think he's a good director. And I think Pre at Night though is still better than The Strangers Chapter 1 because the way Harlan has sort of like set up this trilogy is the fact that he wanted to explore each one of the characters, which is bullshit if you see Strangers Chapter 1 because he doesn't do that in this one. It just feels like it is three people who were just there terrorizing a couple. And I know that's the premise of the first one, but there was tension. There was a hell of a lot of tension behind the first film. Like even just the creaky sort of like usage of a door handle turning and then nothing happening. You were just always on the edge of your seat thinking, oh, are they going to burst in that door? How are they going to handle this scene? In this one here, it just, no, nothing like that happens at all. So when something bad happens to the characters, there is no impact behind it. They make stupid decisions. They do stupid things. And the recourse is the fact that their lives are going to end. You know the premise anyway. You know what's going to happen. There is no surprises in it whatsoever. So it makes you think on how the hell are you going to handle second and third chapter. And he has said, because there's a film out at the moment in America, which I really want to see called In a Violent Nature, which is not out over here. It's not out over here until July 14th. And by the time it gets released over here in cinemas, it will be pretty much on Shudder because it's a Shudder release. I desperately need to see In a Violent Nature, and that's shot from the killer's perspective. And a lot of people think, oh, we've never seen a film like that before. Well, go and watch films like Peeping Tom the Maniac, and you have seen films like that before. But I really, really do want to see that. And that seems to have sort of like the crunchy, nasty impact. That's something like a Strangers Chapter 1 should have had. It's a completely throwaway one. And he said that he wants to potentially make a third one very similar in tone to In a Violent Nature, where you see it from the killer's perspective rather than from the people who are getting terrorized. And I think that might be an interesting idea to explore because they don't speak that much. There's only one character who speaks in the whole family of the strangers. In the first one, it's obviously, why did you terrorize me? Because you were home.
Yeah.
And they use the same line. And that's the only line the killers actually see in the entirety of the film in this one as well, because you were home. And I think exploring it from their point of view might actually be an interesting way to look at it. See, why are you actually doing it? It can't be down to the fact that because your home is the reason. There must be something else behind why you're actually stalking people. So tell it from that perspective, and it might be an interesting way to actually handle maybe chapter 2 or chapter 3. So we'll see, but I have very little hopes for the other two. The next one's out in October. The final one's out in February next year. So we'll actually see. And then the last of the bad ones, because there's one I do want to mention, which I actually thought was really good. I've seen that The Watched, or The Watchers as it's known as in America.
Yeah.
The Shauna Night Shyamalan film. She takes a leaf out of her father's book, and I think, again, that's detriment to her. Because this is her directorial debut. She worked on Old with her father, but she didn't actually direct the film. Obviously, he did. And I think by having M. Night as a producer on this film, it didn't help. The trailer itself gives pretty much all the best bits of the film. And it's a very empty movie. Just doesn't do much with what its premise actually is. And I personally think, though, that the Shadow should have took a leaf out of her father's book by doing what he did at the start of his career, because a lot of people think that M. Night Shyamalan's first film was The Sixth Sense, but he didn't actually start out in horror. He actually did a drama called Praying with Anger back in 92, sorry. And that was his directorial film, and it was a drama, and he actually acted in it. He was the main star in the film, and it was just about him and sort of like in his family life. And then he did another film a couple of years later, well, actually it was a good gap of 6 years later, called Wide Awake, which was it's a faith-based film. And so he did those two films before even directing The Sixth Sense. So I'm wondering if Ashada was just too sort of like dragged by her father's hands when creating The Watched or The Watchers, which is based on a novel, based on an Irish folk tale novel about these sort of like demonic, Selkie-esque characters in the woods, pixies, or what people maybe relate them to. It just didn't work. For me, it just didn't work. There was no impact there. The storytelling was just a bit all over the place. The acting was very wooden. The dialogue is very wooden as well. You just don't feel anything for the characters. The way their dialogue is structured, it just feels very broken. Like they seem to have a standard conversation, then all of a sudden the conversation changes to something else, but the way they actually give those lines felt completely disjointed. So it didn't hit me, that film.
Which is a shame, because you kind of, like you'd mentioned, you wanted to break out on our own, be our own. Yeah. Obviously, people are going to associate her with her dad, but do something like Jennifer Lynch did with Boxing Helena, which is a weird film, but it didn't look like a David Lynch film.
Yeah, but then she did Chained, which is actually a really, really good film. And again, it did not feel like a David Lynch film. So the films that she's done, it doesn't seem to be like her parents. Unfortunately, the Cronenberg situation, David Cronenberg and Brandon Cronenberg. Brandon is very similar in style to his father, and I'm not much of a fan of Brandon Cronenberg's films. They're just too similar to what his father has done. And sort of like, yeah, maybe use your father to help you out, but don't always copy what your parents have done. And I'm hoping sort of like Ishana was given the chance to actually shine on her own, because I know her father's got Trap, which is out later on this year, which with Josh Hartnett in it, and I'm hoping it's sort of like no supernatural elements to it. Don't do that, because you've done it in the last couple of films, and I really did not like Old. I thought Old was bad. So don't do anything like that. Just do a straightforward thriller. Maybe do your usual twist, because that's what you're good at. You're good at it doing them. Adding supernatural elements to it just don't work for you, M. Night. And I think Ishana should maybe potentially look at a different genre. Maybe try a hand at something else. Maybe do a drama or something like that. Or completely out-and-out horror. Go down the out-and-out horror movie route if you want to. But we'll see. I don't want to sort of like quash her career at the moment, because it's only one film. And it could change, because every director's first couple of films, if you ask them, they'll probably turn around and say, well, they were rubbish. And even in an interview with M. Night and his daughter, he turned around and said that the first couple of films he made were rubbish. So he actually vehemently said that. So don't sort of like take it at heart that a lot of critics are hating on your film. Use it as sort of like a good way of maybe potentially learning from that mistakes, rather than just keep on copying them. But we'll see what she does.
It's like I always use Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey as an example. It's like the first one is, if you learn from the mistakes of the first one and then improve on the second one, that's fine. Just don't do the same shit over and over again. So
yeah, well, a lot of critics seem to feel like the director has done the same shit over and over again. But I've read the review from The Guardian for Winnie the Pooh, and then read the review for Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, and it was pretty much a carbon copy review. It's like The Guardian did not give the director a chance to actually say, well, you know what, I've got a bigger budget here, I'm going to try and make a better film. And they just didn't believe him. And if you actually watch the film with open eyes, the sequel is 1,000,000 times better than the original. And this is coming from the cynical person that I am. Because I wouldn't sugarcoat it. I wouldn't turn around and go, oh, this film is actually really good, when I think it's absolutely shite.
Anybody who's known you long enough, be it on your podcast or this one, knows you're not a sugarcoater. It just doesn't.
Yes.
No.
But yeah, I thought it was a hell of a lot better than is it a good film? No, it's not. It's not a good film, the second one. But it's still a hell of a lot better. And I said that on Twitter, and then I got a tweet from the writer and said, thanks very much for the review. And I went, you're more than welcome, because what I said is actually the truth.
Yeah.
So the only other one I want to mention is an 8th film in the series, and you've probably never heard of the film series called The Blackwell Ghost.
Never heard of that film series. Nope.
So this is the 8th film in the series. The film started The series started off.
What were the others called?
The Blackwell Ghost. It started off in 2017, and it's a film series which actually is different to any kind of film series you've seen before. So, when you watch a film series, for example, so it'll have one character from that series, and it'll maybe have a little bit of connection with each episode prior to it, a little bit, and then that's it. This film here, it is part of an entire whole arc. So every single film itself connects to its previous one and connects to the films in the series itself as well.
Okay.
So the Blackwell Ghost was originally an idea from a director back in 2017. It's the same director, same actor, so it's the same person being in every single one of the films. And it was originally about somebody who was debunking ghosts. So going to a haunted place and debunking the fact that ghosts actually exist. And then throughout the film, it sort of like evolved in the fact that in the fifth and sixth one, it terrorized his family, so it managed to come home. And in the seventh film, he found out that a serial killer was actually behind the potential ghosts and stuff like that. That could actually, these ghosts be real? Is it this serial killer that's causing it? Could the serial killer who's no longer alive or potentially might still be alive be the ghost itself? That's what the seventh one explored. And the eighth one sort of like takes that and sort of like adds a puzzle element to it because he is trying to find out more in regards to the serial killer, but then discovers clues as to where the serial killer might locate. And none of the films are very long. They're no more than 65, 70 minutes long. But it's just an interesting film because the budget is so micro. It's a very micro budget film, but it's just intrigued. It never overstays its welcome. It does some interesting things with it, and considering it's the eighth one in the series, you would think, the idea might have completely disappeared by now. But it sets up for the ninth one, and you're thinking, I can't wait for the ninth one. And the way he's been releasing them, 8 films since 2017.
Yeah. Where are these films? I've never heard of the series at all. And you mentioned low budget, short running time, so I'm guessing these aren't things you're rushing off to cinema to watch.
Oh, they had a place on Amazon, so you might actually find them on Prime. So they're these kind of films that drop on Prime every now and again for free, and then you'll have to rent them again or something like that, because it sometimes happens. But yeah, Amazon is the best place to find the Blackwell Ghost series. But I definitely recommend them. Treat it like you would watch a series that's released on Netflix or Prime rather than a film. Because if you treat it like that, then it's an interesting way of actually exploring it. But the ninth one, I was trying to find information in regards to the ninth one as to when it's going to be released, and he definitely is making it. So we'll see when they actually come out. But yeah, I thought Blackwell Ghost was actually pretty decent.
It's not often that a series will come out with a whole bunch of episodes in it in the franchise that I've never heard of, but that's definitely one.
That's it. I know I have watched more films, but I just thought I would cherry pick some, make it a bit of a mixture.
I've written all mine down. I've watched a whole bunch of revisiting. I'm still into this revisiting my favorite films thing, which is a whole topic in itself that we may get into. I watched Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, which I enjoyed. It was fine. Yeah. It was fun. It was entertaining. I like going back because like when the film came out, you saw all the crazy trolls going after it and stuff, and then you watch the film and you're like, I can remember what the crazy trolls were saying. What film did they watch? Because I didn't watch that film. I must have seen a different film, or bits must have been missing from the one I saw. Because everybody was going mad about the wokey police go crazy, don't they? They're like, how dare they? There's a woman in it. Oh my God, there's a non-straight character in it. This is outrageous. Quick, burn Hollywood. And there was a lot of that on Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, and I'm like, I kind of don't get that from that movie. I
think the biggest one for me was I'm a huge fan of Mark Kermode, as you know.
Yeah.
And when he reviewed the film itself, he didn't like it, which is fine. I knew he wouldn't like it anyway, but I don't care. And the way he was actually talking about it, it was going, there's a bit of film, and then Bill Murray, and then there's another bit of film, then Bill Murray, then another bit of film, then Bill Murray. And I saw the film after his review, and I'm thinking, at the end of the film, I was thinking, did he watch the same film as me? Because it didn't work like, there's a little bit of a film, and then Bill Murray. Bill Murray might have only been in the film in total screen time of about 5-10 minutes, and he was only in like 4 scenes maximum. So it didn't work like that at all. And it wasn't the fact that they were shoehorning Bill Murray into it. They didn't do that because they could have. And I'm thinking, you watched completely the different different films, and maybe because it wasn't, oh, he's Bill Murray, it didn't do that.
No. I saw lots of people and a few people going mad at the lesbian undertones in Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Why must they put lesbians in Ghostbusters? And I'm watching it, I'm like, kind of, to me, she looks like she just wants a friend, because the adults don't really give a crap about her because she's a kid and she's making friends with this ghost who happens to be the same sex she is. I didn't see any. I was waiting for it. I'm like, oh, here we go. Oh, okay. Again, what film did people watch? A different one than I watched, but I liked it. I thought it was fun. It made me laugh and it entertained me for.
It didn't
for a
make
couple
me
of
laugh
hours.
because I'm dead inside when it comes to humor, but I was entertained.
Yep, it was fine. I liked it. We watched Back to Black last night, the Amy Winehouse movie.
Yeah.
It's a difficult film to go, I liked it, because it's grim. Obviously, we know the outcome of Amy Winehouse, and that is a raw film. So I can't really go, oh, it was amazing. I had so much fun watching that film, because it's not a fun film to watch somebody self-destructing. I thought the performances were really, really good. I had no issues with that. It's not a documentary, so I'm not going to go, oh, there was bits missing and this happened in this different time thing and whatnot. I enjoy, if you can enjoy a film about watching somebody just sort of destroy themselves. It was fine, well made. I've forgotten the name of the actress who played Amy, but I thought she was amazing. She was really, really good. The trolls obviously went after her when the film came out because she's a woman, and she wasn't Amy Winehouse. But is that a film you've seen?
No, just because I don't have any interest in Amy Winehouse at all anyway. I think the Asif Kapadi documentary, Amy, was more than enough for me.
That's better. That's better.
Because it is a documentary which charted Amy Winehouse's life, and it showed the troubles and turmoils that Amy went through from her own mouth. And I think that was more than enough for me, because these musical biopics that they're actually doing, they just don't, for me, they just don't have that much of an impact there, because it feels to me that they're doing them on musicians that I don't have that much of an attachment to, because I didn't like Amy Winehouse's music anyway. I just found her voice, I know a lot of people find it soothing, but this is coming from me anyway, considering I've got a whiny bitch voice. But I just think that when it comes to musical, it's just not my musical taste, and I just feel her music didn't have that much of an impact. Yeah, obviously Freddie Mercury's did. Did we need to see a musical biopic based on Freddie Mercury's life? Potentially, but just with Amy, I don't have any interest in it, so it's not my cup of tea.
No, and I wouldn't say, oh, not Stu, give it a chance. You got it. It's not. It's, if you've seen the documentary, it's fine. I can appreciate somebody's music. I like you. I don't own any Amy Winehouse albums or none of it in my iTunes. So it's fine. But the film itself, I never wanted to watch it. So I'm like, I'll watch it. I like a biopic. It was fine. I watched a Ty West film, which I don't know when this came out. So it's probably a few years ago. But Second Sight are doing a Blu-ray of it. And so they sent me a screener disc. The Sacriment. Have you watched that? I really enjoyed that film. I like that movie.
I keep on getting that film mixed up with Red State. I don't know why.
Well, they're both about cults. They're both about cults. Yeah, shot very differently, but they're both about cults.
Yeah, that my brain just keeps on getting those two mixed up, Red State and the Sacriment. But I think Red State was more of a sort of like a comedic take on a cult. It had more of a sort of like humorous element to it, whereas the Sacriment just felt like you were watching a cult film, like a Midsommar or something like that. So yeah, I remember the Sacriment's a good film.
It was good. I don't think it could decide whether it wanted to try and be a found footagey type thing, because a lot of it at the beginning is camcorder. We're going into a cult, and then it kind of forgot that later on. And you see camera shots where you're like, who's filming that? But I put that to one side. But I really enjoyed that film. It was good. It was interesting. Yeah. So that's coming out. Pixar, we're doing a watch through of all the Pixar movies. We started at Toy Story and the shorts and stuff before that. We're up to Luca. That was the newest one we watched, which was fine. Not the best Pixar film I've seen, but so far we haven't seen a Pixar film that we have not enjoyed. However, the next one we're watching is Lightyear, so maybe that will. I don't know. I don't know what your thoughts on Lightyear are, but
I didn't like Lightyear and I didn't like Luca. So I didn't enjoy Luca, and so it was sort of like a double whammy for me of Pixar films. It was sort of like when I had that fallout with Pixar. I've never felt Pixar have always been a really good animated studio, but I've never sort of like extolled them as much as a lot of people have. And unlike some other studios, I'm not saying the G word. I'm thinking
Ghibli.
more like you can. I'm not.
I'll say
I'm
it.
more.
I'll say it.
I'm more thinking about studios like Leica and Cartoon Saloon. They don't have the hit rate anymore as what those studios still have for me. Um, I just think they're a more flashy Disney. That's all I've ever felt about Pixar. They're a more flashy Disney, and Luca did nothing for me, and Lightyear did even less for me.
I think Luca was a film we put it on, and we were maybe 20 minutes into it, and we looked at each other and we're like, "Are you enjoying this?" And we both weren't for the first part of it, and we came very close to, you know what, should we just scrap it and watch something else? But we've come so far watching all these Pixar movies, we're like, you know what, for the sake of another hour, let's just leave it on and we'll just, we'll get it over and done with. But by the end of it, we both thought that was okay. It was fine, but it wasn't like Toy Story up. Wall-E, we're like, oh my god, that was amazing. What else are Pixar gonna do? It's definitely the weakest that I've seen so far of the Pixar ones, but it was, it's fine.
Yeah,
Watchable. I've also watched Civil War, which I did enjoy. That's my type of movie. I love these war journalist type movies, so I was fine. I didn't feel a need to have everything explained. I've seen people online going, well, it sucked because it didn't explain why there was a civil war and what started it, when did it start. I don't need any of that. Just drop me into chaos and I'll spend a couple of hours with that one. Civil War, you seen Civil War?
Yeah, I have, but the recourse back to those people is, have you seen an Alex Garland film before? He does not explain his films. He honestly, whether he writes them or he directs them, he does not explain his films. You don't, yeah, there's a brief explanation at the start of 28 Days Later, but it isn't actually you don't fully explore that at all. And then obviously you've got the gap between 28 weeks later to 28 years later, except whatever he's going to do with that. We'll see what he does. But he doesn't explain his films. Men, he didn't explain Men, Annihilation. There were elements in it, but then it got twisted and he doesn't fully go through that. Ex Machina is the same. And so you need to understand how Alex Garland writes and directs these films. He doesn't need to. This is obviously his last film he's directing. So I say he, but he'll probably end up going back to directing sometime in the future. But he's obviously concentrating on the 3 scripts for the next 28 years later trilogy. And then we'll see what he does after that. But yeah, I thought it didn't, as you said, it didn't need to be explained.
No.
You can actually piece the puzzle together yourself if you pay attention to it. And a lot of people didn't like Civil War. I did. I thought it was really good because it just had that impact to it. It didn't need to do anything more than it actually did in the film. There were elements where it was tense, very tense.
Yeah.
But again, you need to understand the kind of director that Alex Garland is. He's not your most straightforward director at all. So that's why I'm a big fan of his. And it's in my, if I was doing a top 10 out of 5, I gave it a 4. So if I was doing a top 10, it potentially would be, or it would be in my top 10 films of the year. I did really like it.
It's in mine at the minute. It obviously depends what comes out between now and December, but it's in there.
Yeah.
So another film that is in there, which I don't know if you've seen this one, but this is one I have watched twice this year within a couple of days, is Knox Goes Away with Michael Keaton.
No.
That is a cracker of it. He plays a hired killer who goes to the doctors, finds out he's going to be afflicted with dementia pretty fast, and he tries to tie all his ends up and stuff. Directed by Michael Keaton as well. Such a good film. I really do like Michael Keaton. I think you put him in any film, he's watchable. Whether the film's good is a different matter, but I think Keaton as an actor and an on-screen performer is pretty amazing. And Knox Goes Away is fantastic. So I would recommend that.
That's what I was actually just doing. I was just scribbling it down on a bit of paper that I've got beside me.
It's really, really good.
If I don't watch it, like in the next couple of months, it'll probably go on my October list. I'm going to still again try in October to do the 30 films in 30 days, because that's my catch-up month, where I catch up on films that I might have missed over the course of the year. So I might throw it in that list there.
How does your catch-up list work if you don't manage to catch up on everything that comes out in 2024, for example? Does it still stay on a list, or would you maybe catch up on it next year?
I just leave it.
You just forget it, yeah.
I just leave it. It's very rare that I'll go back to a film from the previous year. It's just because the way my brain works. But I just like, for example, when I'm searching for films to watch on Amazon, which Amazon's still an absolute cluster of fudge of a place to search for films. But when I'm looking for films there, I'll see because Amazon, the annoying bastards, they put the year that they actually released it on their platform. Don't put it on the year that it was released. So I started a film the other day because I was just after a really cheesy zombie film. And I started a film on Amazon Prime the other day, and I started watching the first 10 minutes of it, and I was thinking, this film could not have been shot in 2024 or released in 2024. There's something off here. And then when I did a quick little check on IMDb, the film actually was released 14 years ago. I hate you, Amazon. I'm trying to find a film that was released this year just so I can bulk up my list a little bit more. And this film was released 14 years ago, you gits.
I've done that. I've put a film on it and I'm watching it. I'm like, I saw this shit in 1982. This is not a 2019 movie. Get out.
I don't trust them. So I'll probably end up forgetting them. But I need to start of like thinking differently. And maybe potentially if I'm doing a best of year, let's do ones where best of the film new that I saw that year and best of a film from a previous year.
Yeah.
But the chances of my brain working like that is probably very minimal.
And it's unusual because you do still tweet out your reviews, but you haven't got a podcast. I mean, other than this one, but you haven't got the Monday Movie Show. But yet, still, you've carried on those routines from podcasting.
Yep. It's a bad habit. I think once you're actually attached to it, you could never actually get away from it.
No. I used to, and I still do to a certain extent, go, I'm going to watch a film this afternoon. Now, I need to pick one that I can talk about on a podcast. So I won't bother with that one that I really want to watch. I'll bother with this one that I can talk about. It's a weird habit. So
I know.
I've watched some TV. I'm rewatching Friends, but that's not an exciting one. I've seen the first 2 episodes of Star Wars: The Acolyte, which is fine. I miss big screen Star Wars though.
Yeah.
And it's just, it was okay. I watched it. I'm like, it's all right. I'll wait for the 3rd episode, but
you'll be getting a new Star Wars film in the next couple of years because there's a new film with Rey. There's the lead character in it anyway, so you're getting a new one in the next couple of years.
It just works for me. It's like I was born before the first Star Wars came out, so I am a Star Wars kid. But I'm all right. I like the Skywalkers. I like the Darth Vaders. I'm not one of these. It's like I need to see all the other worlds. I'm not bothered. Just give me something entertaining every 3 or 4 years on the big screen, and I'm good. Easily pleased when it comes to stuff like that. Nothing to do with lightsabers, but a really good TV show, which is very crazy to describe as good. The Tattooist of Auschwitz, which is an 8-part episode with Harvey Keitel and Melanie Linsky, who she's awesome. I think she's watchable in pretty much anything. And it's a Holocaust miniseries. Yeah, you can't really go, oh, I enjoyed that. It was so much fun. It wasn't. It's tough. It's hard hitting, but it's really well made. But it's obviously it's a bit of a downer. If you want something to cheer you up, you're not going to watch something called The Tattooist of Auschwitz. But it's well made. I didn't recognize it was Harvey Keitel until halfway through the first episode. I'm like, I know that voice. And then the credits came up. I'm like, oh shit, it's Harvey Keitel, because he doesn't. Yeah. Obviously, if you know it's him, you look and you see him. But if you don't know it's him, you kind of don't realize it is until the credits. So there's that. Revisiting wise, this is a follow-on from our top 100 list that we created like a couple of years ago, whatever. Mine's now a top 200 list. I've just carried on expanding it, and I'm buying the physical media discs, putting them on a separate shelf, and just rewatching some of these films to go, do you deserve to be in my list? Are you still as good as I thought you were? So far, they're all in there. The French Connection, I've rewatched from 1971. Rocky 3, The Lost Boys, Bad Influence, starring James Spader and Rob Lowe, Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, St. Elmo's Fire are all the ones I've rewatched that are definitely still in my list. Not in the top 200 list, but films I have rewatched are the first 4 American Pie movies. I'm good with that. And the next Karate Kid, starring Hilary Swank, which I enjoyed that. It was fun. It was stupid, but whatever. It entertained me for like 90 minutes. So
yeah, it's a question mark of a film, that one.
Yeah, it is. It's got Michael Ironside in it, so
yeah,
it gets an extra point. But it makes me wonder, how often do we watch I watch them quite often, but how often do we rewatch our favorite films? So you did your top 100 list. How often do you rewatch some of those films? Because we don't do them as much as we probably did when we were kids, because we're too busy trying to keep up with the onslaught of new films that are dropping onto whatever platforms we've got, or TV broadcasts, or it's kind of there is too much content, I think.
Yeah, not so often anymore, because there's so many different streaming platforms and so many different places to watch films, and so many new films released every single week. Like I find it funny because I know I mentioned on here a few times there's a TikToker I watched who's trying to watch all the newest horror films releases of 2024. And we're into June, and she's seen 84 new horror films because she's done part 84. There's more than 84 new horror films released this year. And then he bets that Project Dorothy and Light, and he bet she's not seen those two, which I have, because they are technically horror. They do fall inside the horror remit. But she's seen a few films that I haven't seen. I actually do want to see. For example, there's a film called Mind, Body, Spirit that I do want to see. There's a one from Australia as well, which I've been trying to find and I can't find it yet. So there's a few films that I want to see, but there is too many films released in a year. So you can't do a list where you say, I'm watching every horror film of 2024. You have to have a caveat, because over the course of the year, there's probably going to be around about 12 to 1,500 horror films alone released. Like when you search and look for films itself, you'll see films that you're just looking and go, really? Like there's 2 Cinderella films coming out this year.
Yeah, there is Cinderella's Curse and something else. It's just like,
and I bet she would not know in regards. She might know about one of them, because one of them's part of the Pooniverse, which I hate that name.
It's very clever, even though we hate the name. It's like fair play to you for coming up with that one, but no.
Well, you see, so one of them's part of that, but any bet she'll not see the other one, and there'll be films on that horror list that she'll have not seen or heard of. Obviously, everybody's at the moment, the new Serbian film is that Coffee Table.
Yeah.
So everybody is obviously just thinking of that, and it's thinking it's disturbing. It's not really disturbing, if I'm being honest. It's got a disturbing premise, but the film itself is just a bit of a dark comedy with a few nasty elements to it, and that's it. With a bit of a shocking ending and a shocking part that happens about 10 minutes into the film.
Good film.
That's all.
Is that
not
okay?
Really.
No,
not really. It just involves a coffee table and something that an accident that occurs that sort of like sets out the premise for the rest of the film, and then an ending where you just go, okay, well, that was a waste of 90 minutes. So that's pretty much it. It's nowhere near as shocking as a Serbian film, which again, to this day, I still don't think it's as nasty as people make it out to be, considering some films out on the market these days. But yeah, like for example, that Flesh Meat Dolls I saw about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So there are films out there which are shocking, but yeah, it's just when you say I'm going to watch every single film in a specific genre, you're not going to be able to. No, definitely not.
I wouldn't say we've tried to keep up with everything at some points in our podcasting careers, but you kind of do. You think, I want to try and watch everything. And it's impossible, because you've got to sleep, you've got to eat, there's TV shows that you think, oh, I want to watch a bunch of episodes. You would have to really plan your entire year out, going, I'm not having any holidays, I'm not going to work, because can't work. That's 8 hours it's impossible. You can't do it. I think the most films I've watched in a year was 366, and that was on purpose. So I want to watch a film equivalent for every day, and I vowed never again. I'm like, it's just too much hard work.
Yeah, I think mine's been the same around by the area of 300 to 350, 360 films. But I did that for the first 7 years of the Monday Movie Show. So every single year I was watching between 300 to 360 films a year.
Too
And
tiring.
that's new. Again, that's new. That's new films. So that's films only released in that specific year. It's not rewatches of films from the previous year or whatever. It's brand new films, and even that was an absolute challenge. So if you're trying to watch every single film in a specific genre over the course of the year, it doesn't sound as much. But you're watching 3 or 4 or 5 films a day
Every
for a
day.
year, every day for 1 year,
No.
which is not possible.
I can't. I mean, as a kid, I used to watch maybe 6 or 7 films, not every single day, obviously, but I'd go to the video store and come back with half a dozen films, sit and watch them all, take them back the day after. I can't do that now.
Yeah.
I think 2, maybe at a 3 push if they're 90 minutes. And I'm talking, I'll watch one at 11 o'clock in the morning. I'll watch another one about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I might watch one about 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. I can't sit down anymore and go, I'm just going to watch movies. I would love to be able to, because my backlog is just insane. And it's not even that I'm distracted. I'm just like, I can't be bothered.
Yes, 3 weeks ago, I watched 5 films in one day. So that's, and one of them was the Blackwell Ghosts 8, which is only like 62 minutes long. So I watched 5 films in one day, and that's the most films I've watched in one day in a good few years. I don't know why I did it. I just think I was having one of those kind of days where I didn't want any kind of interaction with anybody in it. The second I was putting the PlayStation on, I was just thinking, Christ, this game sucks. Even though I was actually enjoying it prior to that day. So I was having one of those kind of days. So I watched 5 films in one day.
Annette went out overnight to her mum's last weekend, and I thought, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to put my PlayStation on, because I'm not, even with gaming, I don't play as much as I would, used to or I'd like to. And I played about 7 hours non-stop of the first Spider-Man film. Next thing I know, it's like, why is it dark? Oh, shit, it's like 7:45 at night. That's the first time I've done that in years. Played video games for that amount of time. But that is a good game. It's a hard game for me anyway, because I'm, a bit of a lightweight game player. But I'm enjoying the first Spider-Man.
Awesome.
What are you playing at the minute? What is your game of choice?
I'm playing through the DLC of Doom Eternal, because I never had it and it was on sale on the PlayStation Store, so I thought, screw it, I might as well buy it. They just dropped the new DLC for Alan Wake 2, which was only £12 again, and you get all DLCs that is going to be released for the game, so I thought, why not? So I've played through chapter 1 of that. There's 3 chapters called Night Springs, and each one is very similar to the Twilight Zone. So right on my alley. And I'm playing Hi-Fi Rush because I don't have an Xbox, I have a PlayStation, and so it was released on PlayStation. It was on sale again, like £12. So I'm playing through those couple of games at the moment. I'm just waiting for, I'm a huge fan of Hades. Absolutely love that game. I've replayed it on PlayStation 5, because I played it on PlayStation 4. I think I did something close to 100 runs on that. It's a run-based game. And so once you get to the end, if you die, that's it. You go all the way back to the start.
Yeah, I remember you telling me and Rob about that, and we're like, no, I would never get to the end of that game.
I've just done it again on PlayStation 5. So I've done something like 60 runs on PlayStation 5, played a good 30 plus hours of that game just on PS5 alone. So that got me fangs attached to it again, because Hades 2 is out on PC.
Right.
And I don't have a PC to be able to run Hades 2. And I'm so jealous that as soon as download is finished, that's me. I don't need to worry about download. I'm saving up. I'm going to get a Steam Deck, because I really, really want to play, just specifically for Hades 2, if I'm being honest.
A Steam Deck for one game, pretty much.
Yeah, because I absolutely loved Hades. It's a phenomenal game. And Hades 2 just seems to be right on my alleyway. So obviously I'll play other games on the Steam Deck off Steam. But yeah, I really, really can't wait for Hades 2 to get console released, or when I get a Steam Deck.
I mean, it will probably come out for the PlayStation, won't it? But it's just not quick enough for you. You want it now.
It's in beta, and PlayStation very rarely releases games in beta. I think the biggest example of a game released under beta before it actually got its 1.0 was Fortnite.
Okay.
Because Fortnite was always in its beta form, because Fortnite was the name of the single player campaign. The multiplayer stuff was not called Fortnite, and then it was rebranded as the multiplayer stuff called Fortnite, and the single player campaign called Save the World, and that was then dropped. And that's when it became a full official release. So that's one of the only times Sony has done it. So they don't like doing betas, unlike Xbox, which they don't mind it, but it's not in an Xbox neither. So, and I was just thinking, should I get an Xbox? Or shall I just save up and spend an extra £150 more and get a Steam Deck use my PlayStation as console and use a Steam Deck as PC? Because it seems to be able to run a lot of these PC games that are released as of late. Yeah, medium form, but still. So I think I'll just go with a Steam Deck.
Yeah. I paid on, because PlayStation got a sale on, or they did have last week, and I picked up for the whole cost of £6 the Batman trilogy, so Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, and Arkham Knights for £6. You can't argue with that. I've played the first one before, but I'm thinking of just binning off my PlayStation Plus, because I don't really play online games anymore, so I'm accumulating a bunch of digital games to then just play those, because it's like £60 a year or whatever for the minimum one. I don't, I'm not a Call of Duty player or anything like that. I don't play Fortnite, so I might just give myself a bit of a breather from that for a little bit and resume it at some point in the future. But
yeah, if you're after some like classic games, they've got the Castlevania collection. It's like 12 different Castlevania games, and it's £3.
It's insane, isn't it? It's like amazing.
The Metro trilogy, Metro 2033 and Metro Exodus. You can get the 3 games in that trilogy for like £7.
Yeah.
That's a good, interesting trilogy where the games are good 15, 20 hours long. Yeah. So there are some decent games in the sales. I still keep my PlayStation Plus running, but I'm sort of like going to be thinking the same as you because I don't play online. I'm thinking about just sacking it off as well, because I've got a few digital games just sitting there waiting for me to actually play.
Even if you just cancel it for like a year, you go, you know what, or even a bunch of months. You go, well, when I resume it, it'll obviously run for a year after I resume it. But yeah, it gives you time to clear up these digital games that you've got stacked up as well.
Yeah.
So how far off is download?
Wednesday.
So when do you set off?
Wednesday morning at 4:00. So I'm staying over at a friend's because one of my friends is driving and I'm going to be in their car. So I'm staying over at my friend's and I'll be getting up at about 3:30 on Wednesday morning. Leaving Sunderland at 4:00, meeting up with another group of friends, and we're convoying down to Derby. So we'll leave East Sunderland at around about 4:30 on Wednesday morning.
And I think it was on your Facebook where you said generally you keep yourself to yourself, or you have done in your past, but this year you're looking to get more involved. What's all that about?
I say that, but I probably won't. I'll still be the miserable old bastard that I am, because I am the oldest out of the group by a good 10 years. This old fart, even though he absolutely loves going to gigs and stuff like that, his body can't take much of it anymore. So I see that I'm going to do it, and I'll probably exhaust myself after the first night. So we'll see. I'll try my best to pace it more this year, so then I am actually with the group. But last year, because download was fully sold out, it was the 20th anniversary. It was over capacity, because download maximum normally each year is around about 80 to 100,000 people. Last year it was close to 120, 130,000 people that download. Because normally you could be at the main stage, and then you might be halfway from the main stage. You could turn back and see the crowd going a little bit way up the bank, and that's it. But for example, with Bring Me the Horizon, the stage, you couldn't see any part of the ground going from where Bring Me was all the way up to the bank at the top, because there was just so many people there watching it, and it was just a sea of people. So this year they've capped it, so it's not going to be like that. So hopefully it's going to feel more like 2022 or 2019. Well, not 2019. I hope that was download. Didn't stop raining.
Oh no. Yeah,
it's forecast for rain this year, but not as bad as it was in 2019. So I'm going to try my best to get involved. So I've got my costume, because we have to. There is a theme day, which is Friday, and it's an official one at download, which is video game characters. But my group, we have our own theme. So this year for us, it's icons. So what icon you want to go as? And I'm going as Freddy Krueger. So I've got the hat. Got the glove, got the shirt, I've got the trousers, I've got the mask as well. So I'm going as Freddy Krueger. And then we have to have our white T-shirt to mark off every single time you have a drink on one of the days. And on the back, you have to have a design as well. And I think I might have went a bit too over the top with the back of my design because everybody's been given a nickname. And unfortunately, I've got the nickname Anne Frank. I seem to go missing.
Oh, yes. No. Oh, no.
So let's just see at the back of my T-shirt. I'll be able to get away with wearing it on the campsite. But if I'm going around download, I'm going to have to wear a jacket because it's a very extreme. It's very dark humor, very dark humor. You would not have thought it would have come from me, but it's extremely dark humor.
Should have called you Madeleine McCann. Maybe that could be something like that.
But that's download for you. Well, I can't wait. It's my way of sort of like disconnecting from the outside world because you get very little for a phone signal. I'm not going to think about work. I can't sing much for long unless my voice does actually come back because it's screwed as it is now. So that's going to be interesting. So if it is that I'm like this and I try to sing along the songs, imagine what I'm going to sound like this time next week.
And who's the most? Who are you most excited about seeing? Has that changed since the recent weeks?
There's a clash because 2 of the 5 bands that I really want to see are clashing. They're not like clashing by like an hour. They're actually full on clashing. So it's on the Saturday, and the 2 bands I really wanted to see is Slaughter to Prevail, which is a Russian death metal band with Alex Terrible as the lead singer, and Baby Metal, which is the Japanese band, and they're full on clash. So I desperately want to see them too, but I can't. I can only see one of the 2. So I've got to think which one I definitely want to go and see.
Is it possible? I don't know. You obviously know the layout of Download. I don't. But is it not possible you could watch half of one gig and then leg it over to watch the second half, and it's like you forget it? That's just never going to happen unless you've got a helicopter.
No, because the clash is the fact that Baby Metal starts and then Slaughter Prevail starts 15 minutes after Baby Metal starts.
Right.
So it's just nigh on near impossible to see them both. You're just going to have to cement your fact you're going to see one and not the other.
So which one wins?
I don't know.
You still not decided? Oh, God.
No. But the rest of the weekend, there isn't like some like really bad clashes. There is 1 or 2 where the set for one of the bands starts and they play for a good 40 minutes and then you would have to move over to the next band, which is fine because that's Enter Shikari. I've seen Enter Shikari 7 times anyway. So another band I want to see, Brand of Sacrifice, they play 20 minutes from the end of Enter Shikari's set. So that's fine. I can easily just leave Shikari's and see Brand of Sacrifice. So I'm definitely seeing them. Limp Bizkit, I get to see Limp Bizkit finally. They're playing. I'll be seeing Fall Out Boy. Fall Out Boy seem to be a hell of a lot of fun. And Sum 41, they do clash, but I'll still see a little bit of Sum 41. But it's an interesting mix this year.
And you said there won't be much Wi-Fi signal or whatever. I'm hoping there will be photos of you dressed up as Freddy Krueger, though.
Yeah, there will be. I'll get involved in the photos and they'll go up on Facebook, but there won't be a photo of the T-shirt, the white T-shirt, because the amount of hatred I'll get on Facebook for that T-shirt, I'll probably be banned from Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook will give you one of them genuine, you've broken the rules, we're closing your account down type messages, probably.
Pretty much, yeah, because again, when I showed my friend last night the photograph of, it was my own design as well that I've done, he looked at it and went, bloody hell. What have you created? What monster have you actually designed there? And I'm rubbish at that kind of stuff as well. And I didn't think that I was going too far, but evidently I've gone too far.
No, so, you will find out if you've gone too far. If this is the last we ever speak to each other, then I'll be like, I think you might have gone too far.
This is coming from 2 people who their sense of humor is beyond dark, and even they think I've gone too far. So if they think I've gone too far, then Christ, yikes.
Maybe you have.
Yeah, but it is in my bag, so I will be wearing it in the campsite, and we'll see what happens after that. I haven't shown anybody else because there's like 16 of us going. So the rest of the people are in for one hell of a shock when they actually see the back of my shirt on Thursday. It's a white T-shirt with you. So Thursday's the white T-shirt day, Friday's the costume.
But enjoy. I know you're going to enjoy Download because you enjoy it every time you attend and stuff. But I look forward to hearing the updates. How was Tenacious D?
They were. I only saw 80% of the gig because I wasn't very well, unfortunately. The support act was absolute garbage. It was sort of like this comedian, and it was just awful, absolutely awful. But Tenacious D themselves, from what I saw, because the First Direct Arena in Leeds is a bit of an interesting arena. There's the way the stage is situated. Is the stage itself is there, and then you've got the standing part, and then you've got huge, massive rows of seats just going back, but they're quite high up the start.
Yeah.
So they just go back for as far as your eyes can actually see. And so if you're standing, you think, oh, you won't get a decent view. You get a perfect view no matter where you're standing. And so I had to, because I wasn't feeling very well, I had to split off from my group for a little bit, and then I came back into the arena, so I was on the outskirts. But I still managed to see Tenacious D perfectly. Nice. So they were a hell of a lot of fun. Jack Black is just a ball of energy.
Yeah, he is.
He's just a constant ball of energy. And so, yeah, it was cheesy fun. But they're one of those bands where I've seen them now. I don't think I need to see them again. Right. Because I don't think they'll release enough new material in the next few years for me to actually go, I want to see them again. They sort of like mix it up and play their best of stuff. So pretty much everything, a lot of the stuff they played was from the Pick of Destiny. And they do play a few other bits and bobs here and there, including one song which I was so happy that they did actually play. They didn't play Peaches, and they didn't play their version of Hit Me Baby One More Time, which would have been fun to see live.
Yeah.
So overall, yeah, it was a hell of a lot of fun.
One of those bands where you go, do you know what? I've seen them, and that makes me happy.
Yeah. Sort of like very similar to when I saw Kiss. I've seen them take. I've seen Def Leppard take. So that I'm fine with that. I've seen Metallica. Please never make me see them again.
You don't need to. You don't need to. You've seen them.
Seen Slipknot twice, double take. So do I need to see them again unless they release some free material? No.
Yeah. But yeah, you enjoy your Microsoft thing tonight. Hopefully there's good things coming from that. And
fingers crossed.
Definitely have to have a catch up when you get back from download and find out how it all went, find out which band you actually ended up choosing to see and whether it was worth it and whether you've any regrets on not picking the other band.
Yeah, I think I will have a regret no matter which one I go and see anyway. So,
yeah. But now you enjoy your afternoon, Stu.
You too.
And I will chat to you later. Right.
Yeah, no problem. Bye-bye.